Communications background too.
A little bit, just a smidge. I decided I didn't dress like a lobbyist for you today. Brought out the seersucker, but I don't have the $100 bills hanging out my pocket. We'll work on that later. Nico, thank you. When I found out I was going to do this, and it was in a rather roundabout way, I was like, well, wait a minute, why isn't Nico doing this? But why isn't Mark doing this? Why isn't Dickie doing this? Because they're absolutely top-shelf lobbyists looking after your interests on a daily basis over at the State House. And I do have a strange background. I have a very bizarre background as it comes to this. I am a reforming sports writer. I spent 14 years at the Advertiser down there until I saw the writing on the wall that I would not have a future in that business anymore, and I had to find something else to do, so I ended up in PR, which transitioned to working for an elected official, which transitioned to being sitting with the insurance department about a subject I knew absolutely nothing about, except for the fact that I paid my premiums every month. And a few years ago, about 3, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, do I want to be a public employee for the rest of my life, or do I want to get on the diving board and strike out on my own and see what happens? And that was the life choice I made as I was nearing the age of 50, and it's been an interesting experience, and it's been a blessing. But the thing that I have learned throughout the whole process is, if you're not talking to somebody about what's important to you, they'll never know. And more importantly, if you're not actively participating in the decision-making process about things that affect you, somebody else will make the decision for you, and they will not have your interests at heart. To put this in a medical perspective, to me, what you do in the advocacy is kind of like the work of a primary care physician. It is the front line of making sure that things are going well in the life of your industry and in the life of your practices and in your businesses. The one thing that I tell any group, get involved, get engaged, get to know. And really, that isn't done here in Montgomery. Now, these guys do a fantastic job of taking directives and objectives and making them work for you. But the dirty little secret is, the best lobbyists for the Medical Association of the state of Alabama are you. And they're done in your hometowns and in your home districts. I encourage each of you, if you have not sat down across from your representative or your senator in Hardee's and had a cup of coffee, make that happen soon. Because when you walk in the room over there, they may recognize you, they'll know your name, they'll recognize your name. But the bottom line is they respond to people they know in voices that are familiar to them. They respond to that. I know that having worked for an elected official, that 5 phone calls can make all the difference in the world. But it's got to be the right 5. And you've got to strive in your districts and in your hometowns to be part of that right 5 on issues that are important to doctors. This isn't brain surgery. This is just simple hard work, simple understanding the issues, and that's the great thing. You've got a staff with these folks that can arm you with any fact and any statistic that they need to know to help make a difference. But when you're sitting in Hardee's and you're looking across from them and you're thinking, do I eat that steak biscuit or not? You can make a huge difference. You can be the catalyst, they'll say, when we get down in committee, and they'll say, you know, I see this bill, but Dr. So-and-so, or Ms. So-and-so from the practice group says this is going to impact them in a negative way. They'll recall that. And they may or may not remember you sticking your head in the office over here when you got over there a little bit. But it's important to do that too, because it's all part of a maintenance process that lobbying is all about. It's not about one contact, it's about multiple contacts. But you have to lay the foundation at home. One other thing. I don't know if y'all talked about your political involvement, but a huge thing is the PAC process. If you're not participating in your PAC, you're letting other people dictate who serves over there. And that's, you have to participate. You have to engage, you have to involve yourself. in those ways. I hadn't told the story, but I guess I'm a massive legacy in two ways. In 1966, my dad was in the newspaper business and left there, and his first job in the political world was as a lobbyist for Massa. Served there for a couple of years, and then became state finance director under Governor Brewer, and then after he was defeated, he jumped back into journalism. My brother worked for Massa for a couple of years, but now he is transitioned to the hospital side, and we won't talk about that, but he's at Huntsville Hospital. And the things that I learned from them growing up were know your people, know your issues, and if you don't have the answers, get the answers. The one thing you can always tell your folks, because the great thing is today when you get a phone call, you'll know you won when they call you and say, somebody brought me this bill today, and it does this, this, and this. How does it impact you? You know then you won. Because now they are looking to you as a trusted source and a trusted resource, rather than you having to say, oh, this is going to kill us, this is going to kill us, this is going to kill us. But there's fundamentals that apply in here, and I know what the reputations of lobbyists are. I mean, I've been a sports writer, I've been a high school football official, and I've been a talk show host. Those are three of the most least respected jobs in America, and I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to find it so I can do the grand slam. Be honest with them. Answer their questions truthfully, honestly, and don't be afraid to say, this person is opposed to it, and here's why. But let me tell you why I think our position is better and superior to the other position. They'll appreciate that because they don't have staffs. They've just got an assistant who helps schedule them, helps get them to the right place. So they need people to help educate them. And you have to do the education, and these guys have to do the education, and they do it fabulously. But at the end of the day, the people that make the most difference to them are the people they know. And it's that simple. There's no real secret to it. There's not, I mean, we may have a clubhouse over here where we talk about lobbyist things. At the end of the day, it's explaining things quickly, simply, where they can be digested, and then have an ask. And can I count on you? Because at the end of the day, you have to ask them to do something, and you have to ask for a specific answer to know where they stand. So you can tell Nico. Representative Smith said this, this, and this. I think she understands it, or I think he understands it, but I think they're with us, but. Or they are with us. They looked me in the eye, they shook my hand and said, I'm going to vote the way you want me to vote. And it's really about that simple. It's just about shoe leather. It's about phone calls. It's about getting to know people. And it's about not leaving it up to the other person to do it. Because at the end of the day, the person that works the hardest will win here 99.9% of the time. And I work for a couple of guys that absolutely show me that every single day. They keep winning, and they keep winning, and they keep winning. Because they're the first one in the door, and they're the last one to leave when they turn the lights on. And it's the same thing for you as you advocate in your communities. The effort that you put forward for your patients. It's about wellness. It's about having a plan in the beginning. It's about maintaining the plan. And then executing the strategy when there's a real emergency that pops up and they need you to respond. It's that simple. And I can sit here and talk in circles for about an hour and a half about it, that I can boil it down to that. If y'all have any questions, I mean, I've been talking. I don't mind getting interrupted at any point.
Reagan, you were talking, you work for an elected official.
Yeah.
You had people lobbying you, even as an elected official.
Absolutely.
People lobbying you all the time, but you had access.
Sure.
To that public official. Some of the secretaries, some of the staff had some of that access as well. But just give them an idea about the most effective people. You've heard from all kinds of different people, all kinds of different issues, and the ones that were consistently the ones that got the things that they wanted. What were the consistent traits that they had?
They had a smile. They had a clear concise message that can be digested easily. If you've got a 150-page bill you talk about, they're going to give you something that's small and that can be digested. Value the person's time that you're with, just like you hope that your patients value your time. I mean, I can complain as well as anybody sitting in that waiting room waiting on the doctor, and boy, they're in a big hurry. But then I realize they've got to see a bunch of patients. They have to see a bunch of constituents, a bunch of folks like us. Today's such a crazy day. There's committee meetings that started at 8:30 this morning. I think the last one starts probably about 3:30 this afternoon. Then you have what Dr. Williamson's got to do, and everybody's all wound up about that, and they should be. But the ability to treat people the way you want to be treated, I mean, it's golden rule stuff. It's basic communications. It's basic salesmanship that you're interested in them. Don't feel like this is a dirty process, because it's not. Now, people disappoint us. People will disappoint you in the way they behave, and people will disappoint you in the way they do certain things. But this process is better than any process that mankind has ever devised for government. And we ought to feel blessed that we can walk in there and say, this puts an undue burden on our business, and here's why. And here's why we think it affects health care, why it affects the quality of care that a patient receives, or why we think X, Y, or Z. Be memorable. Don't be scared to advocate. Don't be condescending. Don't be, or all those don'ts. But do be glad to do what you do, glad to advocate for what you're speaking for, and understand that schedules around here, it's like a grenade goes off and people get scattered to the four winds. And the ability to have that relationship with the person back home will help you be that much more effective here. So, to-do list number one, if you haven't had coffee with them at parties or you don't see them somewhere else, grab them as soon as you can, because I think it'll make a difference for you.
One of the words you used that I like a lot, that I try and harp on, is you said maintenance. I think one of it is you're maintaining a relationship.
Right.
You've got a good friend somewhere. That's not going to be somebody you talk to every 5 years or 10 years, or maybe even once a year. I mean, you're maintaining a relationship. Everybody's got a lawnmower in the garage. Some of them work, some of them don't. If you don't run that frequently, it's going to set up and it's not going to work.
Well, and
the same thing works for personal.
Well, the other part is, when we talk about that and that lawnmower, please don't think of these folks as the landscape folks and you don't have to worry about it. Think of them as doing the big things, but there's the special little things that you want to look extra special. Like my wife handles the beds. The two Georges who do our lawn, do the lawn. They better not touch those beds, because that's her department and that's her project, and they'll just mess it up. And there's certain things that they can't do that you can do, and there's certain things that you can't do that they can. And so, not only communicating with your legislators, but communicating with your team. They have your interests at heart, and they are far too effective to not listen to them. I mean, if they were numbskulls that didn't get anything done, that'd be one thing. But these guys are among the most effective over there. So I mean, they make things happen for you, but they need you there so they can be effective here, and they need you here out there to the converse side. And it's just there's so much out. And then just participating in the process, not just voting, but letting people know that you vote. When you have, we tend to operate in vacuums and silos, and it gets very frustrating for all of us, particularly if there's a troublesome member in your district. Well, we need to run somebody against him. Well, before you say that in a public way, it'd be a good idea to talk to Nico and Dickie and say, we're having a problem with so-and-so up there. And they may tell you, well, I understand he may have a problem on that issue in that district, but he's the best friend the doctors have. And maybe you can help bridge a gap and help keep somebody who makes a difference for you in the government. Or it may be that they'll tell you, you know what? He's killing us. Who's somebody you know in that town that can run against him? they can let you know how that person's doing on your issues. And who knows, it may be somebody who needs to go from a doctor's standpoint and from the district standpoint. If you're talking together, you'll know.
Reagan, excuse me.
Go ahead, no.
One of the things that, I think the best case is, when we were out there working on an issue, the best case is the guy say, I'm with you. Or whether it's vote for or against the bill, I'm with you, I'm supporting the doctor. Walk us through, the converse of that, which is, I don't think I like that issue, or I don't know that I can take that position. I would support your amendment. Walk us through the most effective way to turn their mind around. How do you influence them in the best way possible when you know that they're, whether philosophically or just because their district on the other side?
Well, and the number one thing about all of this is, or the most difficult thing is to not make it personal. Because today's enemy can be tomorrow's friend in the process. I mean, the worst thing you can do is slam your fist on the table, so you so-and-so, you're not going to support us on this, I'm done with you. Well, that doesn't help. You have to explain your position, outline the position, and if it comes to that, where they say, I'm sorry, I'm not for you, then you have to evaluate what the ask becomes. Does the ask become, can you be busy at that committee meeting? It'd be somewhere else. Can you vote no without being vocal and recruiting others? It would be a favor to you that at the end of the thing, if you just want to press the red button and vote no, or vote no in committee, if you have the votes, if your team tells you have the votes, then do that. But never make it personal. You'll know when it becomes real personal. When the association folks that are here say, that person's a problem. But at some point, and if you can't get it done, you think somebody else can help you get it done. Recruit help among other folks in your district that are like-minded on the same issue, other practices of the doctors. And at some point, they're going to understand if it's one doctor asking for something and they say no, but if it's 3 or 4, then they're going to go, and they may count the cost a little better. But at some point, if the answer is just a hard no, then it's about mitigating the damage they can cause and preserving a relationship as you work forward. Because there will be another issue next week, end of the session, next session, that will be just as important, or maybe even much more important.
Reagan, one of the things that I found is, as you say, don't make it personal, but the flip side is put a personal face on it.
Absolutely. Don't take the rejection personally.
Put that personal face on it and tell that story about somebody that lives in your community.
Without violating HIPAA rules.
Yeah, but talk about somebody that they know and what they've experienced in that same issue. And you put that personal face on it, and all of a sudden it's not a theoretical issue, it's a personal thing, and it's local, and they can identify with it.
And to play off of that, here's another idea that I think is extremely helpful. When you talk to legislators that have been around a while, what is the most important thing you've ever done? It's very rarely ever passing a bill or killing a bill. It's the time they helped a constituent. So if you have somebody that you affect in your practice, that you know you can help, and with their permission, because I'm not asking you to break the law, but if you can link them with a legislator to get the help they need on an issue, whether it's a Medicaid issue, a DHR issue, an insurance issue, something, and that person has the opportunity to help them, they will remember that, and they will remember you for helping them to gain a victory that's non-legislative, but really the reason why a lot of these folks come down here is that they want to help people. And a lot of times they do a lot more good for the people by helping them with agencies than they do by just voting yea or nay on a bill. Anything else?
Yeah, more questions. We maybe stirred some questions out of here. We've gone through a lot today. Reagan's our last speaker.
I'm the distance behind. I'm standing at the door.
You're the closer.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So I've been here for the last 4 years. I'm here every year. Every year is the same. For our representatives, They say, especially in the last 2 years, they said Republicans are now in charge, we're anti-tax, we're not going to expand Medicaid, we're not going to do these other things, just no new taxes. Your ask is dead, okay? It's who we are. We're Republican, we're not for new taxes, we're never going to vote for new taxes, we're anti-new taxes, no new taxes. That's right now what we're facing. Everything else, we're just whittling away at the edges. I mean, right now, honestly, you know, I've never, you know, Don Williamson, when he talked to us this past summer at the College of Surgeons meeting, you know, was sort of upbeat, you know, juggling a lot of balls, but very upbeat about the RCOs and about rolling it out and everything else. And I think a lot of us were pretty upbeat about the RCOs and beating back the, you know, private insurance managed Medicaid, okay, from outside the state, carpetbaggers moved in. And now we're faced with this, you know, they don't fund it, everything's dead. So how do we get past that?
I'll take it first. I'll say this, and I heard the tail end of what Dr. Williamson said, and particularly in terms of how the spreadsheet didn't scare anybody. And basically that many of the legislators said, okay,